Run it back, nation. What is good? It is your boy DJ East with Run It Back Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros. I need everybody that's in here to hit the like button on the stream. Shoot me through the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Turn your notifications on if you're not getting notifications and you would like to get notifications. Turn them on. Turn them off. Turn them back on. Yeah. Let's get right into this. I think here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give some of my main thoughts on what happened last night with the Sixers Celtics game, and then we're gonna jump over to the playback TV room and go through the game film and really talk about what things were good, what things were not good, where we went right, where we went wrong, all of those things. Shout out to everybody in here. Thanks for joining me. Let's go. My man Martin Santiago with the quick super chat off the rip. Donor of the month, donor of forever, man. Thanks for always supporting the channel, Martin, my guy. Fell asleep in the third, woke up for work and wanted to cry when I saw what happened. Hans hitting that shot entirely too late was the icing. Man, that Joel Embiid 90-footer was something else, man. Something else. And I'm going to post a clip out my live reaction to that and post it separately because it's kind of funny. I really, really thought Joel Embiid tied the game with a 90-footer with no time on the clock, and it didn't count. And it was demoralizing. Right after we got our hearts ripped out by a Jayson Tatum game-winning three, we get a little glimmer of hope something that you might never see again if you watch basketball for the rest of your life. You might never see a player throw the ball 3/4 lengths of the court and make the shot. So we were like, oh my God, there's something happened that might have been good. Oh, it didn't count. It didn't count. That was something, man. That was something. So look, the Sixers face the Boston Celtics. Fully healthy, both teams. I feel like it's been a couple of years since we got like healthy playoff matchups in the regular season. There's just always somebody resting. There's always somebody with a sore ankle. There's always something this, something that. The COVID thing was really difficult to cover the NBA during that, when every 2 weeks players were missing games. So it felt good to be able to watch a game that you knew like really, really mattered and really meant something, right? It's a lot different when it's a Monday night against the Detroit Pistons. You finally got the true test, the juggernaut of the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics, NBA Finals last year, and you got them with their entire squad healthy. And you put up a fight. I guess what I want to say off the rip is that I'm not ultra negative about this loss. I know some people are. I know Twitter last night was just acting like this was the worst loss in the history of Philadelphia sports. And I felt the same way after the Super Bowl. Everybody, oh my God, Jonathan gaining this, Jonathan gaining that. We did this on defense. We did this. Bro, you went down to the wire with the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And I'm usually the negative one. The Sixers went down to the wire with the fully healthy NBA Finals last season, Boston Celtics. And an MVP candidate went back and forth with our MVP candidate. Both MVP candidates were carrying their teams in the fourth quarter, and their MVP candidate hit a game-winning three-point shot. I just can't be that mad about it, because one or two plays differently, the Sixers win this game. And I've been waiting this whole season to see, do the Sixers have what it takes to compete with the best teams in the league? And I got my answer last night. Yes, they have what it takes to compete with the best teams in the league. People are saying, yeah, but you lost, or, we always lose these games, or we now lost 3 games to Boston, so we don't stand a chance. I'm just looking at the game itself, specifically this game itself. You can't deny that one or two things go differently in this game, and we win. Did we shoot ourselves in the foot? Yes. But the Boston Celtics also shot themselves in the foot. There was a run in the first half that was about, I want to say, a 13-2 run. And then the run in the second half that the Boston Celtics went on, that was an 18-3 run, really put us behind. We had to claw and catch back up. But we did that. We blew a lead, and the Boston Celtics blew a lead. We were up by 15 at one point in the game. Somebody on Twitter told me we were up by 20 plus. Like, bro, just at least watch the game before you pull out Twitter and start saying things. But we were up by 15 at one point, and we blew that lead. The Boston Celtics were also up by 10 with 4 minutes left, and we tied the game. Both teams made runs. Both teams were fighting. Both teams were doing good things. Both teams were doing bad things. You could look at the Boston Celtics and say, why were they leaving Embiid on Horford one-on-one and getting him to the free throw line as many times as he got to the free throw line? Because Al, not what he used to be, but he couldn't guard Joel. He could not guard Joel Embiid. He had to hold him. He had to hack both of his arms. He had to wrap his arms around his chest. He couldn't stop him. Joel Embiid is unstoppable. Joel Embiid is completely on. There used to be one or two players in the NBA that I would say these are the one or two players that can guard Joel Embiid. It doesn't exist anymore. There's not a single player in the league that can guard Joel Embiid. So Celtics fans could look at it and say, why'd we do this? Why'd we do that? We were folding in the fourth because we were doing this. I'm just saying both teams did good things. Both teams did bad things. If we want to look at it in a positive light, we could say this. James Harden did not have an amazing game. Tyrese Maxey had a horrendous game. Our bench was a minus 10,000, and we still were within 3 points. That's probably the best way to look at it. Because if the Sixers have a little bit better of a game than they did, they win that. Jayson Tatum wasn't having a great game. He came through in the fourth. Which is also why I get so annoyed at the advanced analytics things, because even a performance like Jayson Tatum last night, he was being defended well by the Sixers. Other people were making us pay, but Jayson Tatum was not having a great game. But guess what? He won the game for his team in the fourth quarter. Nobody's looking at PER, efficiency rating, advanced box plus minus, Raptor, VORP, whatever else. MVPs get the job done. We almost have to separate it to this point. Let's give somebody an efficiency rating award, okay? And then we'll give somebody else the most valuable player award. I just wanted to say that. Yeah, I think both teams did good things. Both teams did bad things. It was a game of runs, and we came up short. Now, if you wanted to look at what are the main things that we did wrong, our bench was horrendous. We got 12 points off the bench. They were atrocious. There was nothing really good that happened off of the bench at all. A couple of like Tyrese Maxey buckets. But really, like, this is the story, and this has been the story of the Sixers for a couple of years now. The plus minus of the starters: Tobias Harris 18, PJ Tucker a plus 21. Dude had 16 rebounds. Dude had 5 offensive rebounds. I mean, we really got playoff PJ in this game. You know, Tobias Harris plus 18, PJ Tucker plus 21, Joel Embiid plus 8, D'Anthony Melton plus 3, James Harden plus 9. Go to the bench. Tyrese Maxey minus 11, Jalen McDaniels minus 23, George Niang minus 22, Paul Reed minus 14, Shake Milton minus 4. It was just a night and day difference between our starting lineup and our bench, and that was it. That was it. I really wanted to look at the third quarter, because the third quarter, when the Boston Celtics made that 18-3 run, is really when they extended their lead, made it so that we had to claw back and come back to tie the game late. But that 18-3 run really ended the game. You know, and in that third quarter, we gave up 12 points to Al Horford, who was 4 for 4 from 3-point range. The entire third quarter for the Boston Celtics was Al Horford shooting threes. It was insane. And that's what ended the game. And it's funny, because if you look back at the last game that we played against the Boston Celtics, we did the same thing. We had the same strategy. What's the strategy? Focus on Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Make somebody else beat you. But when somebody else was clearly beating you, you didn't change anything. You didn't adjust. The last time we played the Boston Celtics, our strategy: focus on Jayson Tatum, make somebody else beat you. Blake Griffin in the first quarter said, all right, you're going to let me shoot wide open threes. I'll take that. And we're like, it's Blake Griffin, let him shoot. But it's also an NBA player who can shoot threes. And if you're letting him sit there and have a 3-point shooting warm-up at practice, he's going to make a lot of them. And after that game, Blake Griffin said it's Doc Rivers' strategy was to make somebody else beat them and leave me wide open. And they did not adjust, which has been a thing. He was saying Doc Rivers is known throughout his career for not adjusting. This game's going on. We're going back and forth. First quarter, second quarter. There was a run in the second quarter too, but third quarter comes. We focus on Tatum. We hold Tatum in the third quarter to 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3 for 6 points. And we say, let's make somebody else beat us. And Al Horford did what Blake Griffin did the last game. He said, I got you. You're going to leave me wide open? I'm going to knock it down. We leave him wide open one time. He knocks it down. And these are very simple pick and pop plays, by the way. The Philadelphia 76ers defensive strategy on screens is insanely bad. It is insanely bad. I've been saying that this whole season. We gave up 41 to Zach LaVine on 11 three-pointers. We gave up 44 to CJ McCollum. We gave up 62 combined to Kyrie Irving and Seth Curry. These dudes are just coming down the floor with the ball in their hands, calling a ball screen, and getting a wide open shot. So then our counter to that is, okay, when Tatum runs a ball screen with Horford, let's not let Tatum have a wide open shot, but they over counter. Now they're doubling Tatum around the ball screen, and Horford's just popping to the three-point line wide open. He hits one. We say, all right, he hit it. Let's continue. He hits another one. We say, okay, well, Al Horford wide open 2 times in a row. Maybe we should switch up the strategy on these pick and pops or these screens. Maybe we should hedge. Maybe we should switch. Maybe we should try to rotate back on him because he's making a shot. He hits a third one. This is all in the third quarter, in the midst of an 18-3 run. He hits a third one. I'm pretty sure after that third one, Doc Rivers called a timeout. We come back on the floor. We do the same exact thing. He hits a fourth one. So that was really the nail in our foot in this game. That 18-3 run in the third quarter where Al Horford scored 12 straight points for the Boston Celtics on 4 straight wide open three-pointers. And that was very annoying because after 2 of them, you might say, okay, listen, Al's feeling himself. He's been a 40% three-point shooter at points in his career as a center or a power forward, whatever you want to call him. Maybe we should adjust now and slow him down a little bit. We did the same thing. He hit a third one. We did the same thing. He hit a fourth one. And that was really the story of the third quarter. And I feel like the Sixers lose in the third quarter all the time. Most games that they lose in the third quarter. We got outscored in the third quarter, 30-22. Boston Celtics shot 38% from three-point range, 5 of 13. They got off 13 three-point attempts in the third quarter. We shot 40% from 3, 4 for 10. What are the rebounds? Look at the rebounds in the third quarter. Boston had 14 rebounds. The Sixers had 7. So they doubled our rebounds in the third quarter. Offensive rebounds. Was there offensive rebounds in the third quarter? Yes, there was. Jayson Tatum had an offensive rebound. Robert Williams had 2 offensive rebounds. Derek White had an offensive rebound. 4 offensive rebounds for the Boston Celtics. The Philadelphia 76ers had 0 offensive rebounds in the third quarter. The whole thing was the third quarter. It just was. We go to the fourth quarter. Now we're down. We got to claw our way back. And Joel Embiid plays hero ball like he always does. This is the story, really, of this team this season. I look at the Boston Celtics and I say, that's a well-balanced team that has a lot of weapons, that has a lot of different ways they can beat you. You slow down Tatum. They got a deep team. They have a good bench, and they just have a lot of options to beat you. You slow down Tatum, Jaylen Brown can beat you. You slow down Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Al Horford's making shots. Derek White's making shots. Sam Hauser. You can go a lot of different ways. The Philadelphia 76ers, on the other hand, are top-heavy. They've been top-heavy for a long, long time. It's all or nothing with the Sixers. It's either a great performance by Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey, or they lose. Or they lose. So you go into the fourth quarter. Joel Embiid plays hero ball like he always does. He has 14 points in the fourth. We claw our way back to tie the game. And Jayson Tatum hits a game-winning three-point shot. James Harden had 9 points in the fourth. Tyrese Maxey had 6 points in the fourth. And Tyrese Maxey had a terrible game, like, for the most part. One that stands out to me in this fourth quarter stat sheet is Tobias Houdini Harris, guys. And I'm going to tell you something about Tobias Houdini Harris in a second. Tobias Harris was playing a great game the first half of this game. I think he had 10 or 12 points in the first quarter. And in the fourth, Tobias Harris, in 10 minutes and 50 seconds, had 0 shot attempts. 0 for 0 from the field, 0 for 0 from 3. He had 0 offensive rebounds. He had 0 defensive rebounds. He had 0 rebounds total. He had 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, and 2 fouls. Tobias Houdini Harris does it again. A good first half and complete goose eggs across the board in the fourth quarter. I mean, the guy couldn't even get a damn rebound on the stat sheet. You know what I mean? Tobias in 10 minutes in the fourth couldn't even give us a rebound. Couldn't get an assist, a steal, a block. Anything? 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 I agree he wasn't given the ball. But 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. I mean, that's funny. That's just funny to me. It's Tobias Harris. It's what he does. So, you can't. In the beginning of a game, everyone's like, oh, Tobias game, Tobias game, Tobias game. Disappeared, man. Disappeared. But I understand our strategy in the fourth was to just go Joel and James Harden, Joel, two-man game and spam it until they stop it. That was really the story, that third quarter. That third quarter was really the story. Then you look at the last play of the game, all right? Because a lot of people were saying that, and I said, it was a questionable decision by Doc Rivers to guard Jayson Tatum with DeAnthony Melton. So, again, you could talk about all the things you could have done better in the game. You could talk about all that, people, game shouldn't come down to one play. You lost because of this, or this. But the game did come down to one play. The game did come down to one play. It was tied 107-107. There was 10 seconds on the clock. And Doc Rivers' strategy was to guard Jayson Tatum with DeAnthony Melton. And I'm just not sure why that was the option there. You had, Jalen McDaniels plus minus was horrible in this game. And, it's a new player you just added to the squad, and he's trying to find his way, and he's trying to, find his role on this team and get in where you fit in. But when you have a 6'10" defender like Jalen McDaniels on your bench, I would have probably put him on Jayson Tatum in that scenario. Melton didn't even play terrible defense on Tatum in that scenario. Tatum just got a one-on-one on a 6'2" guard. Dribbled to the three-point line, did a simple step-back dribble, shot an open three over a 6'2" guard. I love DeAnthony Melton. I love his effort. I love his heart. That dude's an amazing addition to any basketball team. But he's 6'2". And you put him on Tatum, and Tatum took advantage of it. Tatum is 6'8" or 6'9", and he shot over him. That's exactly what happened. I would have gone. I just don't understand. I know Tatum was having a bad game, but you still should have been focused on Jayson Tatum, with the game on the line. That's just what it is. If he's 0 for 25 and there's 10 seconds left in a tie game, you still should be focused on Jayson Tatum. They left him one-on-one on a 6'2" guard. I probably I would have went with P.J. Tucker on Tatum before I went DeAnthony Melton on Tatum. And I would have went Jalen McDaniels also. I just think, I don't know, man. I don't know. If they went McDaniels and the same thing could have happened, I guess. Obviously him being taller and longer stands a better chance at defending that game-winning three. So, that's where I would have went with it. I would have put some more length and athleticism on Tatum. It was just too easy. It was too easy of a way to win the game. That's just what I think, man. It was too easy of a way to win the game. Tyrese Maxey was terrible in this game, and Maxey's had good games, Maxey's had bad games. This whole Tyrese Maxey coming off the bench thing, I'm not sure what people think about it. Some people hate it. Some people say it's better. Tyrese Maxey had 8 points in the game in 25 minutes. And when we first brought Tyrese Maxey off the bench, when they were thinking about bringing Tyrese Maxey off the bench, I put out a video, and it was titled, "All of the Reasons You Should Not Put Tyrese Maxey on the Bench." And then a couple games into it, I happened to notice that the only real thing you're doing by putting Tyrese Maxey on the bench is giving him less minutes in the game. Tyrese Maxey started this season out great. He was averaging 24 points per game for his first couple games of the season. Then he gets the foot injury. He comes back. He struggles to shoot. They move him to the bench. He's had a 27-point game off the bench. He's had a 32-point game, but he's had some lackluster games also. I'm noticing two things with the Tyrese Maxey thing off the bench. There's a lot less Maxey Harden on the floor together. Tyrese Maxey's shooting percentages are way better when he shares the floor with James Harden or any point guard, really, even Shake Milton, because Tyrese Maxey is not a shot creator. Tyrese Maxey is a put the ball in a hoop guy. It's what he is. And if he develops into more than that as his career goes on, that's great. But right now at 22 years old, Tyrese Maxey's a put the ball in a hoop guy. He's a shoot a three, take a dribble, shoot a mid-range, drive all the way to the rim, hit a floater, or get a layup, or get fouled. He's a put the ball in the hoop guy. He's not a create offense kind of guy. His percentages and points per game and everything are higher when he shares the floor with James Harden because James takes pressure off of him by attracting more of the defense, and Maxey can feed off of that. We saw at the end of last season when James first joined the team, and we saw at the beginning of this season, then the injury, then all these things, and he comes off the bench. But the first thing that I noticed is you're just giving him less minutes, straight up. James Harden played 41 minutes in this game. Tyrese Maxey played 25. Last year and the beginning of this year, Maxey, Harden, and Embiid were all playing the same amount of minutes. Now Tyrese Maxey's playing 15 less minutes. That screams mismanagement to me from the coaching staff. When you have a player who, the beginning of this season, looked like a serious weapon he looked like the beginning of this season. He looked like a serious weapon. I almost made a t-shirt that said Big 3. And now he's coming off the bench and getting 25 minutes in a game. That's number one. Number two, when he's on the floor, there is absolutely zero strategy offensively for Tyrese Maxey. There's not a play in the playbook. There is not a play in the playbook that has Tyrese Maxey's name on it. Not a single one. We're talking about a guy who has games where he looks like a legit NBA scorer. And then he has games where he looks like he's confused and lost or doesn't have a role. And to me, at his age, it's up to the coaching staff to get the most out of him. And I'm seeing him just being thrown on the floor off the bench like he's Jordan Clarkson and saying, hey, go score. We don't know how you're going to do it. We're not going to help you do it. We're not going to run a set for you. We're not going to bring you off a screen. We're not going to bring you around a dribble handoff. We're not going to run a pick and roll. We're not going to do anything for you. You just go figure it out. That is the opposite of what you should be doing with a player like Tyrese Maxey. So right now, it's not working. Right now, it's not working. Maxey is a guy who creates off the dribble. He's not a guy you call plays for. That's Brandon. I could not disagree with that more. Maxey is a guy that does not create off the dribble at all. He's a guy who literally feeds off of getting downhill and feeding off of a point guard, creating a play and getting him the ball. I think what you just said is the exact opposite of the truth. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. This is pathetic. Maxey is struggling. Stop making excuses. I'm analyzing the game and I'm giving you my opinion. If your opinion is different, that's perfectly fine. I do want you to know, though, I'm not always right, but I am right 100% of the time. I'm just joking. I respect your opinion. But, a 22-year-old player that's done things that Maxey has done in games, the coaching staff should be getting more out of him. There's no other way to say it. The coaching staff should be getting more out of him. I seriously believe that. Maxey doesn't belong in the starting lineup. Bro, why? Why? All right. Tyrese Maxey, 2022 stats. Okay, Tyrese Maxey, 2021-2022 stats. Tyrese Maxey in the starting lineup! Averaged 17.5 points per game, 4.3 assists, 3.2 rebounds. Shot 48% from the field. Shot 42.7% from three. Oh, by the way, that was a top 3-point percentage in the entire NBA. In the starting lineup! I don't understand it. We put him on the bench for 3 weeks and all of a sudden Maxey's shouldn't be in the starting lineup? Well, why? When did this start? He injured his foot and he came back and struggled, and now all of a sudden 3 years of him looking like a future NBA star, we're completely forgetting about that. All of a sudden Tyrese Maxey's completely trash and should be coming off the bench and has no role, and he's trash and it's his fault. Come on, man. Stop it. You guys got short-term memory loss, man. Come on, man. Go watch some highlights of last season to refresh your memory on Tyrese Maxey. You got short-term memory loss. It's ridiculous. You see 2 bad games, and all of a sudden Maxey's trash and has no role, and you need to trade him for pennies and whatever else. It's insane. But I respect your opinions. What do you guys think about Paul Reed only playing 4 minutes in this game? I know he wasn't good, but there's a lot. The entire bench was terrible, and defensively in the third quarter, they were especially bad. And I noticed that as soon as the bench came in the third quarter, the Boston Celtics went on an 18-3 run, and the worst players, the worst player in that third quarter bench lineup defensively was George Niang, who was a -9 in 3 minutes. As soon as he came in, there was a couple of plays where he failed to close out on Al Horford, gave up a couple wide open layups at the rim. The lack of athleticism really stands out when a team attacks. A guy like George Niang. When an athletic team attacks a guy like George Niang, the lack of athleticism really stands out. And that 18-3 run, he was in there for a large part of it, and it was very evident. It was evident to me. It was obvious to me. Actually, the entire third quarter, Paul Reed was not used at backup center at all. Doc went At times he had Niang back there, and then he brought PJ Tucker in at the 5 when Joel Embiid sat. And I love PJ, I love his heart, but I'm scared of Doc Rivers' obsession with PJ Tucker at the backup 5. Paul Reed made one mistake where he failed to close out, and Doc put him on the bench. I think that happened in the second quarter, maybe, or was he in the fourth? Paul Reed didn't play a minute in the third. He was in the game for 1 minute in the fourth. That's when he got benched. He had a bad closeout and left, I think, Horford open again, or somebody was open in the corner, Grant Williams or somebody, and Doc put him on the bench and didn't bring him back. And then he played PJ Tucker at the remaining backup center minutes, and that's wild to me because, you went Montrezl Harrell for a large part of the season, and you realize that he can't play backup center against athletic teams in the NBA. You went Paul Reed, then you benched him, then you went back to Paul Reed. He had games where he looked like he could be serviceable against athletic teams. He had bad games. This wasn't a good one. The team signs Dwayne Dedmon out of desperation for a backup center. He's not playing yet because he's injured, or maybe he's considering retirement. I personally hope he's considering retirement. But all three of those options, in the heat of a big-time matchup against a championship contender, Doc Rivers says, I'm not going with either of them. I'm not playing Paul Reed. I'm not playing Montrezl Harrell and Dwayne Dedmon, who knows where he is. I can't trust anybody at backup center but PJ Tucker, and he puts PJ Tucker in the game at backup center. I don't know, man. What do you guys think of that? I'm not saying it's the wrong move. I'm not saying Paul Reed was good. I'm definitely not saying put Montrezl Harrell in the game, but I'm saying if our backup center is PJ Tucker, we are screwed. And I love PJ, but in today's game, you just can't have a 6'5" center on the floor. I just don't think you can. And I like PJ Tucker in the game. He had 16 rebounds. He had 5 offensive rebounds. I just think you need a better option at backup center. You can't say, this guy made a mistake, I got to bench him. I have to go with 6'5" PJ Tucker because he's the only person that I trust right now. You need a better backup center option, man. Can you really play Dwayne Dedmon at backup center? Man. Your backup center doesn't have to be a great NBA player. Again, just survive the Embiid-less minutes, but that's still, this game showed me the most. That is still probably the biggest issue with this team roster-wise right now is the backup center, man. It just is, and then when you have PJ in there at the backup 5, then you got to have Niang in there at the 4 in the bench lineup. I don't know, man. I would rather Paul Reed and Jalen McDaniels at the 4 and 5, or Paul Reed and PJ Tucker on the floor together. I would try something. I just don't think you can go PJ Tucker and George Niang on the floor together at the 4 and the 5, man. That's wild. But with all of the, with everything taken into consideration, all of the things that I think we did wrong in this game, I think we did a lot of things right. And I think the Sixers showed me that they have the talent to compete with the best teams in the NBA. It's not impossible for them to beat the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series. You could have a better game from James Harden. You could have a much better game from Tyrese Maxey. I'm just saying, let's not all act like it was a 30-point blowout. You know what I mean? Let's not all act like it was a 30-point blowout. That's all I'm saying. You went down to the wire with the Boston Celtics. You lost on a MVP play from an MVP caliber player in Jayson Tatum. And you fought hard, and it was a close game. So we'll see. I don't know, man. Give me your thoughts in the chat. Give me your thoughts in the chat. Did last night show you that the Sixers can compete with the best teams in the East? Or did last night show you that we don't have what it takes to get a win against the best team in the East? Boston is a bad matchup for Maxey. They are long and fast. See, but we say that about we say that about every team that's just flat out better than us. They're a bad matchup for us. They're a bad matchup for us. They're more athletic and faster, and that's just saying to me, Boston's a better basketball team. Bad matchup. That just means they're a better team, right? That means their roster is built better for 2023 NBA basketball. Isn't that what that means? Well, here's another question on this. If Boston's a bad matchup, where are you going to get a good matchup? You're going to play Boston if you make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would bet money on that. You're going to play Boston if you make it to the ECF. So, bad matchup, that tells me you can't compete with the Boston Celtics. It showed me we can compete, but we have many small things to fix up and not blow leads. Yeah, I agree with that. We were minus 24 without PJ Tucker on the floor. I don't know how to take anything from this game. That's true. That's a wild stat right there. That's a wild stat. PJ Tucker was doing everything last night, everything he possibly could. I just think if you could go bench lineup and have PJ in at the 4 and a better backup center option, that would be a lot more sustainable than resorting to PJ Tucker at center and George Niang at power forward. And George Niang is another. I don't really want to say this, but if he's not making shots, he's not adding any real value to the team. It's kind of like Furkan Korkmaz, guys. It's kind of the same thing with Furkan Korkmaz. Niang gives effort, but let's be serious. He can't guard athletic NBA players. So it's a layup line on one side of the floor, and if he's not making shots on the other side, you just got to get him out of there. I think there was way too many Niang minutes in this game. I think there was way too many Niang minutes in the game, man. We also only have 7 playable guys in the playoffs. Boston has like 12. Niang can't play against them, and Doc won't play Reed. Hey, thanks for the super chat, Brett. 7 playable guys? 7? That's all we got? 7? 7? Damn. If we only have 7 playable guys in the playoffs, we're screwed. Straight up. If we only have 7 playable players, we're screwed. You can't go in the playoffs with 7 players. Harden, Embiid, Maxey, Tucker, Tobias, Jalen McDaniels. Ooh. Who am I missing? I didn't say Embiid. Harden, Embiid, Maxey. All right, let me look at the damn thing. My brain's not working perfectly today. Tobias, PJ Tucker, Joel Embiid, DeAnthony Melton. I'm sorry, that's who I was missing. Wow. Hey, Brett, you might be right, bro. Brett, you might be right, man. You might be right. Tobias, PJ, Embiid, Melton, Harden, Maxey, McDaniels. That's 7. That is 7. The rest of the roster, you got Furkan Korkmaz. He can't play in the playoffs. Daniel House Jr. can't play in the playoffs. Montrezl Harrell, please don't play him in the playoffs. Shake Milton had a minute in this game. Paul Reed, George Niang. Woo! Man. So, the Sixers roster, there's 6 players. So, you're telling me there's 6 players on the 76ers roster that can't play in the playoffs. George Niang, Paul Reed, Shake Milton, Montrezl Harrell, Daniel House Jr., Furkan Korkmaz. Wow. Well, we've seen Paul Reed play in the playoffs. Again, last year against the Toronto Raptors in that entire playoff series, Paul Reed played every single backup center minute, and we won the series. Shake Milton, 2 years ago, Atlanta Hawks, game, I want to say 5 or 6. We needed a spark off the bench. We were struggling. We were still dealing with a point guard that wouldn't shoot. Shake Milton had a huge game. The game that I was at, I think it was game 2, actually. Had a huge game, gave us a spark off the bench, and basically played point guard in the fourth quarter for us against the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs in that game. Won the game. Doc Rivers, game 7, goes with George Hill over Shake or Maxey at that point. It was funny because we were at the point then where we were like, who's going to play point guard? Because we know Ben can't play point guard. So we were trying to desperately find a point guard. Maxey played good in one of those games. Milton played good in one of those games. Doc went with George Hill in game 7 because he trusts the older guy. He just does, and he's never. It's how he is. It's how he's always going to be. But we've seen Shake Milton be valuable in the playoffs. Probably not against the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, but first round, second round, Atlanta Hawks, you know. So we've definitely seen a lot better games from Shake Milton. I don't know when Shake became completely unplayable. I don't know when Shake started finishing games with 1 minute and 48 seconds. That's an interesting one for me. Shake has a 39-point game a couple years ago against the Clippers, against Doc Rivers. Now all of a sudden Shake doesn't play at all. So if you really look at the minutes in this game, when the pressure's the highest in the biggest matchup, Doc is not going to experiment. He's only going to play players that he really, really trusts. And yeah, when you look at it, the only players that got minutes were 7 players. The only players that played more than 5 minutes in this game, 7 players. So Brett, it's an interesting take. Oh, that's an interesting take, man. We'll look at the Boston Celtics on the other hand. Players that played more than 5 minutes for the Boston Celtics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boston played 8 guys more than 5 minutes. Sixers played 7. George Niang was one of them, and he only played 12. Boston had 8 guys playing more than 20 minutes. I guess we could look at it that way. How many players on the Sixers played more than 20 minutes? 6. Boston had 8 guys play more than 20 minutes. So that's flat out, they're deeper than us, right? They're flat out deeper than us, right? Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams, Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, Al Horford, Jayson Tatum. And yeah, they didn't even play their bench that beat us the last game. Peyton Pritchard did not play. Mike Muscala did not play. Luke Cornett did not play. Blake Griffin did not play. Sam Hauser played 1 minute and 50 seconds. Those 5 players beat us a couple weeks ago. That's wild what our last 5 guys looks like compared to those. Furkan, Daniel House Jr., Montrezl Harrell, Shake Milton, Paul Reed. So people aren't wrong when they say the Boston Celtics are much deeper than us. They are. They are. They have 12, 13 players that can contribute in an NBA game. The Sixers have about 3 or 4 that absolutely cannot. You know, Harden wasn't good enough in the fourth quarter. Philly imploded in the beginning of the fourth quarter because Harden wasn't good enough. It has nothing to do with the bench. Brandon, you're wilding out, bro. How can you say the loss has nothing to do with the bench when the bench was horrendous? Your takes are wild, bro. Takes are wild today, man. Boston's deeper. The Sixers bench was atrocious. They are not. They have a coaching staff who knows what their players are and use them accordingly. So is Peyton Pritchard better than Furkan Korkmaz, or you're telling me that the coaching staff knows how to get more out of players? Boston is a better roster, man. Boston has a better roster. They have a better roster. How can we argue that? They have a better roster. They are better coached. I agree. They have a better roster also. Doc should never play more than 2 or 3 guys on the bench at the same time. I agree with that. Blaming everything on one guy is funny. Who's blaming everything on one guy? When did we do that? I don't understand. Oh, he's saying we lost because of Harden. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think if you swap coaching staffs, you would see the same results? That's a good question, man. That's a good question. I don't think Doc Rivers would get out of Malcolm Brogdon what the Celtics are getting out of him. I don't think Doc would get out of Grant Williams what the Celtics are getting out of him. I don't think Doc would get out of Derek White what the Celtics are getting out of him. So I completely agree that there's a coaching staff that is getting much more out of players over on the Boston Celtics side than the Sixers side. Just Doc does not get the most out of players. He doesn't, man. The only time he's won is 2008, and he had a Hall of Fame roster. And the year after that, they choked, and Big Baby Davis came out and said he went with the older players. He didn't play who got him there. That was way back in 2009. That was 13 years ago. Dude's doing the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to ask me, do the Boston Celtics have a better coach? Of course they do. I hate Doc Rivers. I haven't been able to stand that guy for years. Both can be true. They have a better roster and a better coach. I think both can be true. The Sixers' end of the bench could look like, right now, the end of their bench is Furkan Korkmaz, Daniel House Jr., Montrezl Harrell, Shake Milton. The end of their bench and Paul Reed. That's 5 players that are fringe NBA players. The end of their bench could look like Isaiah Joe, Charles Bassey. There could be better. The end of their bench could definitely be better. Tyrese Maxey wanted to come off the bench, so firstly, it's all on him for making that decision. Second, it's Doc's responsibility to put him on the floor with Harden rather than swapping them out for each other. I don't believe that. I don't believe that story that Tyrese Maxey called Doc Rivers and told him that he wants to come off the bench. I don't believe that. Rosters are equal? Come on, man. Stop it. We got Furkan Korkmaz on the roster. Knock it off. We got Furkan Korkmaz and Daniel House Jr., and you're telling me rosters are equal. Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, Charles Bassey, Jalen McDaniels would be a much better bench lineup than what we have right now. I really believe that. I do. I don't think the roster's as good as Boston. I don't think the coaching is as good as Boston. We're much more top-heavy. They're a deeper team. We are much more top-heavy. We need Joel Embiid and James Harden to carry us. Boston, when their best players are getting shut down, they get carried by Derek White, by Grant Williams, by Malcolm Brogdon, by Marcus Smart, by Sam Hauser, Blake Griffin, Luke Cornett, Mike Muscala, Peyton Pritchard. So they're 2 different types of teams. One's deep and one's top-heavy. But we still went down to the wire with them. Do we win a 7-game series against them with this roster? I don't know. Probably not. Joel Embiid in his post-game press conference basically said, we got up by 15 points and we relaxed. And that's a problem that we've had this whole season. We relaxed and they beat us. And that's annoying. And it's starting to sound to me like Joel Embiid is becoming annoyed, with the team, really, with the team around him. And if Joel Embiid starts to really get annoyed with the team around him 8 years into the process, what's going to happen if they lose? What's going to happen if they lose, man? What's going to happen? That performance those bums put on against us really impressed you, huh, DJ? What? Yeah. 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 Yeah, Rick. Yeah. Yeah, Rick. Rick, if you play without 4 starters and beat us convincingly with all of our whole squad's healthy, and they play us without 4 starters and beat us with Sam Hauser and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon and Mike Muscala. Yeah, that's impressive. How is that not impressive, man? Well, I don't understand, bro. You got some wild takes, bro. Some wild takes, man. Not 8 years. Joel was drafted in 2013. Come on, bro. Wait, 2004. Yeah, 2013. And then Nerlens Noel, and then Jahlil Okafor, and then Ben Simmons, and then Markelle Fultz. Oh. Come on, bro. Been around the block. Been around the block, bro. Joel is content. He's a rich man from Cameroon. Winning a championship doesn't interest him. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that at all. Joel wants to win. Joel came to the United States because he wanted to be great at something. You don't want to be great at something your whole life and become great at that one thing and lose the motivation to want to be the best. Joel Embiid has said his whole career he wants to be the best player in the NBA, and he's been that for a couple years, by the way. You're going to tell me Joel Embiid doesn't want to be an NBA champion? Why? He's a rich man from Cameroon? Joel doesn't care about money at all. The guy doesn't own any cars. He got his driver's license last year. He shows up to the arena in sweatsuits and slides. He's not showing up in a Versace, runway outfit like some other players on this team. He's not showing up in his Rolls Royce carrying Louis bags into the arena like a lot of other players on this team, showing off all their money. Joel Embiid's the last person that I think is content because he has money. I think he wants to win. Brandon Katz, you've had some crazy takes on this stream, man. I respect your opinions, but they've been wrong the whole time, and this one's even more wrong. Philly could have drafted Tatum. Drafting Fultz is what prevented the franchise from being a contender. I say this probably once a month on this YouTube channel. The Philadelphia 76ers did not have a shot at drafting Jayson Tatum. You had to have been watching in 2017, leading up to that draft, to understand what went down. Markelle Fultz was averaging 31 points per game at 6'5", a 6'5" point guard averaging 31 points per game, was shooting 41% from three-point range, was shooting 40% on pull-up threes off the dribble, and was shooting 42% on mid-range pull-ups. Markelle Fultz was annihilating college basketball. He was compared to James Harden, Kyrie Irving. He was the unanimous number 1 pick. The Boston Celtics had the number 1 pick. The Boston Celtics had Isaiah Thomas coming off of an MVP level season where he took them to the Eastern Conference Finals, had several 50-plus point games. Isaiah Thomas was balling out of his mind, and they had other point guards on the roster. The Boston Celtics were not interested in drafting a point guard. They were interested in drafting a player that would help them win. They drafted for fit. Nobody was talking about Jayson Tatum in Duke like he was a future superstar. Go back to that draft. Go watch everything leading up to that draft. Nobody was talking about Jayson Tatum like he's going to be a superstar in the league. He was not talked about like Markelle Fultz was being talked about. The Boston Celtics wanted to draft for fit. They knew they needed a wing who could handle and shoot and could develop into a great player. They decided Jayson Tatum fits what they need at the time more than drafting Markelle Fultz at number 1. So they said to the Philadelphia 76ers, hey, we'll trade you the number 1 pick for this, and that, future firsts and things like that, if you want Fultz, and we'll get our guy Tatum at number 3. And we said, okay. Do you know what would have had to happen for the Sixers to be able to pull off a fleece, like lying, like building some kind of a unwritten agreement with another franchise to trade up to number 1 and then take Tatum at number 1? That doesn't make any sense. That wasn't going to happen. The only reason the Celtics traded the number 1 pick is because they wanted Tatum at 3, and they knew we wanted Fultz at 1. We would have had to lie to them and say, yeah, we'll take Fultz at 1, and we'll make this deal. And then when we got the number 1 pick, we would have had to go back on the deal and draft Tatum at number 1. That's insane. That's not what happened. It's not what happened. And if we said no deal, guess what? The Boston Celtics were taking Tatum at number 1. Context is everything. We did not have a chance to draft Jayson Tatum. Boston was getting him at number 1 or number 3. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. Glad I got to say some of the things I wanted to say about the Sixers-Celtics game last night. We will be on Playback TV, tomorrow? When the heck do the Sixers play again, man? Who we got? The Bucks or someone? The Suns are playing the Bucks right now. Is that on national TV? Is that on ABC? I might pop up and watch that on Playback. If you're not in the Playback room, playback.tv/runitbackphilly. Go there, get the app, turn on your notifications. If I pop up and watch the Bucks game, Bucks versus Suns, but I don't think Kevin Durant is playing yet. I don't think Durant's playing yet. What do we got? What else we got today? Nets, Hawks, Lakers, Mavericks at 3:30. I might pop up for the Lakers Mavericks game on Playback TV. That would be fun. The link is at the top of this chat. Click there, join the room, turn on your noties, and I might pop up for Lakers Mavericks. Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic. The Lakers have apparently a 40% chance to make the playoffs. I do think the NBA gave LeBron James a whole new team because the Russell Westbrook trade was impossible and it happened somehow. So I think the NBA is going to try to get the Lakers into the playoffs because LeBron James broke the scoring record and they need a better story than one of the greatest players of all time broke the scoring record. He has to be in the playoffs. He has to make a championship run. You can't have LeBron miss the playoffs. That would be like letting Patrick Mahomes get tackled by one of the best defensive lines ever. No, you can't do that. So you make a slippery field. Sixers Heat tomorrow night, man. If I don't pop up on Playback today, we're doing Sixers Heat tomorrow night. Tune in. Playback.tv/runitbackphilly. Hit the like button on this stream. Thank you for being here. I'll catch you guys on the next one, man. Peace.